Yeah, I suppose this was kind of inevitable. The Dr. Insano review something thing. So yeah, I decided to make this the April Fool's episode. I actually really like the April Fool's episodes, but they take me forever to choose what I'm going to do because with the Final Fantasy 1 review, I actually really like that one because I love Final Fantasy 1. But at the same time, there is a whole lot to make fun of when it comes to that game because it's very simplistic. You know, it was an NES RPG. What do you expect? It was going to be simplistic, but it was kind of funny taking the usual, scalpel that I normally take to every game and apply it to just kind of this really silly plot of an NES game about. I think even as a kid, some of the stuff really rubbed me the wrong way about Final Fantasy 1, like the bringing a rat tail to Bahamut as a token of bravery, and all of a sudden your guys hit puberty and they're huge, and the circle of sages who never move, and just all sorts of stuff where the weaknesses are really obvious. There's not really that much strategy to it. If you see a fire guy, you use ice, and of course the town just before you go in the fire dungeon sells ice swords and ice armor and stuff like that. So I thought that was really funny, but it was kind of funny how I did this review kind of joking around, but actually it made a lot of sense, So I got a bunch of comments and emails saying, you're right. That game is actually really kind of stupid. And so it was funny how I did this joke review, but it still kind of applied. It wasn't that far off. And so I kind of had this idea where I would do these reviews where I was kind of joke reviewing something that I really, really liked. And I think the Cinema Snob actually does, pretty much everything he does is, kind of reviewing stuff he basically likes. He likes watching these exploitative crap movies, but a lot of them are really bad, but he knows that he has a lot of fun with it. So, I mean, I'm kind of the same way, but, choosing a movie that I actually really like, I do like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I mean, as a teenager, it was really one of my favorite movies, preteen teenager. It's just a lot of fun, It's one of those movies that when you actually stop to think about it, Ferris Bueller is I'm sorry, he's a terrible, horrible human being. He manipulates, he lies. What really galls me about this guy is that he leads people to believe that he's dying, that he has a terminal fucking illness, that he needs a transplant, and. People are doing fundraisers and donating hard-earned money, starting campaigns on his behalf to raise money for this guy. And he's not sick. He's not sick at all. And he's got people, gravely concerned for his well-being. Can you imagine, if you, spent a week pretending to be terminally ill? The next day you just show up at school and you're fine. And people would fucking lynch you. It's just insane. I would love to see the day after this where he shows up at school and he just finds some way to laugh it off, where he says, oh yeah, I was dying, but it turns out it was just a cold, there's no way to deal with this. But again, this is no more complex than just a Looney Tunes cartoon where one guy just wants to kind of have a good time, and the mean, angry principal, Don DeLinger, is trying to stop him, so that's really all it is. And when you start dismantling this movie, you're just not having a good time. So I actually spent, a week, maybe 2 weeks, trying to pick out a target for something that I actually really like, but could easily just eviscerate as being the most horrible example of movies ever. And so, eventually I just kind of was looking down my movie collection and going oh yeah, Ferris Bueller, that asshole. And I kind of thought I should do something else I liked how that guy with the glasses did this thing where he kind of had other people hosting different shows, and so I thought I'd just do this one time. And I actually ran into this problem where Dr. Insano was reviewing this movie, but it's a movie where evil triumphs. It's like the ultimate victory of evil. But I decided that Dr. Insano had a problem with it, not because evil triumphs, but because it's the triumph of lazy, ignorant, slacker people. The very Morlocks he's trying to dominate, and he's trying to stymie the forces of education and science. This educator. the people he would probably respect more than anything is he's trying to like stifle these people, and they're trying to ridicule intelligence, as if a life of slack and leisure is going to carry you in the future. And actually, I've always wanted. I actually thought it would be worth kind of doing this, maybe even a really dark sequel to this, where you explore what the hell has become of Ferris Bueller. Like, you can't imagine he went through his whole life living this way unless he became like a radio DJ. I don't know, but he's really, the way he's living, being absent from school so often. His complete disdain for education and history and stuff like that. You get the feeling that he's really going to turn out to be this uneducated clod, and this is the very definition of a guy who peaked in high school. He's got nowhere to go from here. The guy's going to be, I hate to throw used car salesman under the bus, but he's going to be flipping burgers on Venus. I mean, I don't think Cameron was that far off, but he says it like Cameron says fry cook on Venus, like it's going to be some kind of dream job. I imagine that would really suck. He's going to be this miserable minimum wage paid working asshole on some outer rings, some far off planet. And again, I'm actually throwing like short order cooks under the bus. I know a lot of really intelligent fry cooks, but not a lot. But you know what I mean. But I thought I was pretty clever in writing this. It turns out I'm not nearly as clever as I thought, because as soon as I did this, a bunch of people, not being mean, but actually being very supportive, were like, oh, I saw this website one time where they run down the classifications. Like, there's a scientific list of the definition of, like, sociopathic behavior and insanity and stuff like that. Specifically, like, a sociopath who, he is basically like this egotistical bastard who literally cannot conceive of the feelings of others. And so that was my argument against Ferris Bueller. But apparently a bunch of other people who are much more knowledgeable about the classifications than I am really went down the list and kind of tore apart on like every criteria. And he's basically like just this Dahmer-esque figure from, they've analyzed his behavior in every single facet of his actions throughout this movie. But yeah, so I guess I'm not the first to get here. I'm probably the first to make a video review of it, but definitely not the first to review it. As for the Dr. Insano thing, I keep saying that you're probably going to see less and less of him. Mainly because seriously, the voice kills me. I like the character a lot. Actually, I always find he's really good to go to, and I think pretty much a lot of other critics have their kind of Dr. Insano, I want to say amalgam, that's not the word, equivalent, some kind of, just some guy to leap into frame and cackle maniacally about, just some guy whose sole purpose is to be antagonistic, just every time there's some kind of silly science fiction thing or some kind of plot, you can cut away to this, this imbecilic guy who never succeeds at his plans and is trying to use these plans for his own. And so I like Dr. Insano. His problem is that, and this is my fault entirely. Oh, this is my brother, by the way. You never see his face, and you never get a clear look at his uniform. I just really wanted him to wear like just to wear his riot helmet because he looks like a cop, and he is a cop, but. I was actually very careful not to identify what branch of the police force he works for, because it would reflect very poorly on where he works, and that is not actually I think the police get kind of a bum rap, especially down where we live. But he's not like that. He's not this fascist pig. He's my bro. He would not treat people that badly, and so actually, especially with the controversy in Arizona, which is actually kind of scary. At face value, this whole thing about having to provide identification papers and papers of legal citizenship around here, it's kind of scary. And you start to eye the police like they're these, Gestapo-type officers. And I guess everyone brings up the Nazi parallels, but, in some cases it might not be unwarranted. But, with my brother, he's not like I'm going to stop me some illegals, stuff like that. But I just had this joke where, I just never got how Ferris could jump on this float and start singing. The police would, like, mace him and drag him down and zip cuff him in, like, 8 seconds. How the fuck does he get away with that? I don't know. But, yeah, Dr. Insano, his problem is his voice is really shrill, and it's not easy to do that, man. You try talking like that guy for nigh on 20 minutes at a time, and I was recording this for about an hour and a half, probably a little longer, but that's not an easy voice to keep doing for that long. Especially the laugh is what kills me. That really high-pitched, cackling, shrieking laugh, and it can really wear on you. You'll actually probably notice that I've been trying to gradually kind of tone his voice down a little bit to where he gets his jollies, he still has his laugh, but he's not always like shrieking like this. I try to kind of keep him a little more reserved and gleeful instead of he gleefully evil instead of less manic, I guess. He's crazy, but he's not like bouncing off the walls manic. I don't know if that makes sense. He's I'm trying to bring the energy level down a little bit. I'm a big believer in having a lot of energy in front of the camera, and in fact I think that's a downfall of a lot of starting critics is they really need to build up enthusiasm. It's actually really hard sometimes when you're not feeling in the mood to get in front of the camera. You gotta psych yourself up. You gotta be not smiling necessarily, but you got to be fired up. You got to get people excited and anxious and listening and tuning in. So when you start to drone and you start to I know a lot of people. I get a lot of videos sometimes, and this is not singling anybody out, but especially even when I was starting, I had this problem. If you look at my first videos, I was really low energy. Just kind of. You gotta stay animated. It's really important. So Dr. Insano's big thing is he's very joyful and animated. He loves this evil shit. And it was a lot of fun writing his reactions to certain things. Like you can tell he hates Ferris, but I think my favorite part of this one was he actually does get a lot of enjoyment at seeing Cameron suffer. My favorite part is when he notices the mileage on the car and. Ferris goes, this is where Cameron goes berserk. I love the reaction. I cracked myself up. Yes, I know. I love the reaction Dr. Insano has where he's like, this is what Cameron's soul snaps like a Twix bar. I love he's like, this is fucked up, but I love it. And yeah, I don't know. It's a really great reaction. I amuse myself. Why else would I do this if I didn't amuse myself? Yeah, and this is obvious, this callback. I was always planning on doing this. It's over! I really did want to do something where I would kind of rip off the credit sequence where Rooney gets on the bus to that Oh Yeah song. I really wanted to do a bit where, I would get on a bus and see all the other Spoony counterparts, and I would sit next to the Spoony bum, and he'd be all gross and, eating this ancient taco or something like that, and really creeping Dr. Insano out. But I didn't have a bus, so I just didn't know how to do that, so I just went with this. It kept it moving.